Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Hope you have been having a marvelous 4th of July weekend. And every day there is something new to discuss. As of this taping, this big, beautiful bill, also known as the Big Ugly Bill, has passed by a margin of 4 votes, 218 to 214. We'll be talking about that as the week rolls out. Because there are some people who really believe that these cuts are not coming, or that the cuts are only coming to those who are so-called undeserving, like the people who pick your food. Well, no, the cuts are coming to you, and me. They're coming everywhere. And so we need to talk about that. Just what is on the horizon. And really, it's not on the horizon. It's really down the street. It's coming. These cuts are coming. And so let's think about that, everybody. The president is due to sign this sweeping bill on the 4th of July. But everybody yesterday was riveted by the news that Diddy really beat the toughest charges. And many people are saying that, he actually won a the RICO charges, he beat them. But let's find out what RICO is. Why is that so difficult to prove? Um, what about the Mann Act? I haven't really heard about that since Jack Johnson, quite frankly. Okay, undo your face, Daryl Jones. What about the sentencing? Many people said he's a first-time offender officially, and so why couldn't he be released on his own recognizance? Well, he wasn't released. He will be imprisoned until he's sentenced. Will he be safe there? What does all of this mean? When he is, well, you know what? I'm going to start again because I think, hold on, everybody. Stand by. Hold on. You got the link, right? Oh, hello. You got the link? No. Just the first hour. I just sent it to you. I sent it's not second hour. It just says first hour. Okay, just come on. I'm going to start again. The Pearl. Because, I had to answer it because it's technology and everybody has I'm not snapping on anyone because everybody, I had a hard time. We're talking about Diddy, y'all. Andre and Robert and Bernadette. Okay, so everybody like and share, like and share, like and share, like and share. It will be, and two lawyers, and what are we going to say? We have two brilliant lawyers with us, and we also have the brilliant Chaparral Wells, someone who's followed this case avidly. So I said, okay, you're more than welcome to join. So you know what? We're going to come up for the purposes of editing this properly at 4 minutes in, Chaparral. So we've got about almost 30 seconds. Okay. Linda, I'm so glad you're with us. Attorney Daryl Jones, who's about to run. Are you doing a marathon tomorrow, Daryl?
No, 10K tomorrow. 10K, but it's the largest 10K in the world in Atlanta, Georgia, the Peachtree Road Race.
How many people will be in it?
A little more than 60,000.
What? How do you get a number? I mean, how does it work?
Oh yeah, well, they have the registration, so they have all the people that are registering and all the different side streets they'll be starting from.
So you all are starting from different places.
Well, it's all the same starting line, but because there's so many people that when you start going back from the line, you start going down streets. So they have different streets that people are down that are waiting to start. So they put us in different corrals.
Oh my Lord, that is wow. Okay. All right, everybody. So, okay.
Hey, Linda, you're on mute. I didn't hear what you said.
That's right, Linda. We're going to come up in 30 seconds. That's right. Robert said, wow, that's
I
huge.
said I like a man with stamina. I'm glad to hear that you can do 10K. That works for me. That's all I tell you. That's a wonderful thing. How does that sound? It's a wonderful thing. Sing it for me, Sandy.
No.
It's a wonderful thing.
I love my.
Tina might want to put you back on mute now, Linda.
I can't.
Hey, no problem.
4, 3, 2. The Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I hope that you have had a marvelous 4th of July weekend. We are cracking up here. That's why you have to come to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. You never know what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Diddy today. Everyone wants to talk about that. Everybody's been talking about it. But as we are pre-taping this show, the big beautiful bill, many people have said it's the big ugly bill, and that's what it is. It just passed by a narrow margin, 218 to 214. The president is expected to sign it on the 4th of July. He will be speaking from Iowa about this big victory, and it's been a lot of wheeling and dealing, a lot of carve-outs, a lot of exceptions have been made for various districts and states. But the fact is, everybody's going to feel this. Rural hospitals are going to be closed. The social safety net is being shredded. There's some people who game the system, but no one talks about the Pentagon gaming the system. They have failed their audit 7 consecutive times. They're the first people Doge. That's the first entity that Doge needs to look at and make them answerable, make them accountable. When Congressman Rand Paul's father was in the U.S. House of Representatives, he wanted to audit the Fed and the Pentagon. No one would ever let him do it. Why are these sitting the sacred cows? They get more money than everybody. So we need to think about that, everybody. Think about that. But we'll talk about that when we, let's say technically tomorrow. But right now, let's talk about the Diddy case. Everybody is talking about that case. I haven't really touched it because I felt that there were so many other issues that loomed so large, and I will be talking about it as we proceed. But there's some people with whom I want to discuss the case because I think that there are a lot of aspects of the entertainment industry and the music industry in particular that we really, really need to look at. You know, music is so powerful, so powerful. And it has been used traditionally, not only to heal, but to uplift the people, particularly our people and the downtrodden. And maybe the government did see in the 60s and the 50s and the 60s, when music and the great musicians were used to aid and abet movements of social change, they infiltrated that industry. And there's a lot to discuss there. There's a lot to unpack there. But right now we're looking at these charges against Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, Diddy, Love, all of that. Someone who's really become a billion-dollar brand, who really has become iconic in the world of hip hop, which has now become a global brand. He was looking at life in prison. And we found out a lot of things about him that were disquieting, that were painful. It's painful to watch. It's painful to watch anyone's downfall, and it's painful to watch anyone's really unseemly side. But we saw that. But actually, he was not on trial for those things. He was tried in the court of public opinion for those things. But he was really being tried for RICO. What is that? What is racketeering? What does that mean? What is sex across state lines? What is the Mann Act? And now that he's been convicted of the lesser charges, when he's sentenced, will he be let go? When he's sentenced, will he serve consecutively? That is one term after another, or will he serve them concurrently together? Will President Trump pardon him? His team has reached out asking for President Trump to pardon him. Hey, he's pardoned Lil Wayne and other people, so will he pardon him? Let's find out. We will see. But first, let us look at the case. Why didn't the defense call witnesses? Were they protecting people? There are a whole lot of questions that we have to ask right now. And so I said, hey, let me go to Attorney Darrell Jones, who has been a prosecutor. Of course, he's the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition now, but he's been a prosecutor. Attorney Linda Bernard, who's won cases before the Michigan State Supreme Court. She is also a police commissioner in Detroit, and a civil rights lawyer. So want to know what her thoughts are. And then Chaparral Wells, who has been avidly following this case and has been all over social media, Daryl and Linda, with her opinions. And they've been substantial. And they really, it's not just a court of public opinion, it's just there's so many issues that have been brought forward in this case. And so let me start with you, Attorney Daryl Jones, because you have been a prosecutor. And can you lay out the case for us? What was he charged with? And what happened here? Did he win?
Well, yeah, Santita, what Sean Combs was charged with was was what we call RICO, right? The Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. He was also charged with sex trafficking, which really, somewhat falls under the Mann Act, where we're talking about people that are transporting people across state lines for purposes of having intercourse, having sex with them, and then charged with the prostitution charges as well. What really happened here, and as this all was played out, and I just think that the defense here just did an outstanding job in dealing with the jury, because what they did was that they sort of laid out that what was happening here was that they were putting on trial Sean Combs's lifestyle and all that was going on. They also, I think, certainly weighed into the jury's mind with regards to and what they needed to prove, what the prosecution needed to prove, was that the acts that Sean Combs was taking were acts that he was taking, and that the victims were actually victims, and that they weren't voluntarily involved in any of this, that they weren't getting anything that was out of it, they were really being forced into these actions. And I think that, with all of the questions with regards to, in the juror's mind, if you have the opportunity to get away, why didn't you get away? Were you receiving anything in return for the acts that you were performing? Were there promises with regards to your career and all this other stuff? Were you getting anything back? Were you doing it because of that, not because you're being forced into doing it? And so a lot of that, I think, is what was played into the jury's mind with regards to the racketeering, with regards to the sex trafficking. When we look at this, I think that the jury looks at this entire case and says that, this goes to the believability of Cassie, goes to the believability of the Jane Doe. For the prosecution in this particular case, they've spent somewhere near $10 million, are some of the estimated figures, to try to prosecute this case, and they walk away really with an empty bag. They have the two lowest counts that were there. That's what they're walking away with. If their goal was to try to tarnish his reputation, I think that certainly perhaps that happened. I don't know. You don't spend $10 million on doing that. But at the end of the day, Sean Combs, whatever he's gone by, Biddy. At the end of the day, you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, that's a lot of money that was spent on two very low-level charges that carry with it at this point, when you look at the sentencing guidelines, which means that the range of sentencing of what the judge should do with where he is now being convicted of these two lower-level crimes, somewhere between 6 and 15 months in jail, which is the time that he's already served. So the question is, was the juice worth the squeeze? And in this particular situation, in this prosecution, I'm not certain that it was. And but I simply have to say, certainly hats off to the defense team, because they were able to really walk away with what I think is a favorable verdict for Sean Combs.
So, I mean, did the verdict surprise you? I mean, just put on your prosecutorial hat.
Mm-hmm. When I put on the prosecutorial hat and I look at the film and I listen to the testimony, I don't know I would have done anything different than what the prosecutors did. I think they felt as though they had a pretty solid case with regards to.
But what was the case, though?
Well, the case really would have come down to the testimony of the Jane Doe and Cassie, and particularly with the film of her being beaten and dragged and all that other stuff at the hotel, being dragged back into the room. All of that was an indicator, certainly, that there was something more than simple prostitution that was going on, that she was being forced into something. that's what the prosecution, I believe, was banking on, was that testimony and those films. All the other stuff with regards to all the baby oil and all the other stuff, I think that was just sort of, in their minds, just sort of some of the icing for the cake that they were baking. But it really did come down to the believability of the victims in this case, and and the tape and the information that was coming from that witness stand. They thought that they could show that the racketeering occurred because of the corporate interests that Sean Combs held, that it was a power piece that he held over them, the promises that were being made. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. Those types of things are the pieces that the prosecutors were trying to put in place, and the jury simply didn't buy it.
Attorney Linda Bernard.
No intelligent person would buy that. That is ridiculous. This girl is beautiful. She was beautiful when she met him. She liked him. He liked her. She clearly recognized what he could do for her just being at the parties with him. And I know this for a fact, Daryl, because a woman who was my secretary, who was fine as hell, went to his place down in Miami and with her sister, because he liked pretty women around him. And there were all kinds of pretty women around him. And he had liked her, so he flew her down there and all that. She's sitting in the living room. She and her sister, they're getting ready to go party all night. They're at Fisher Island. Santita knows what it is. She's been there a million times. It's where all the millionaires are.
But not.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Not with him. I'm talking about with all the famous people that live on Fisher Island. From Rocky,
Okay,
everybody lives on Fisher Island. That's famous. Anyway, they are sitting in the living room, Daryl, and then he goes upstairs. There's a huge house, so he's everywhere. He comes in the room and he says, "Well, ladies, you have to go." And she's like, "Well, I just got here." J-Lo had just gotten there. This is a fact. So his main squeeze had come through the front door. They will exit out the back door. I mean, this is nothing new to anybody. And this case was preposterous, and I don't think he was guilty of anything.
Well, wait a minute. Why do you think the case? Hold on. Why do you think the case? Okay, you disagree with him. Why? And why do you think the case was preposterous?
It's absolutely preposterous because every woman that goes to see a man on an airplane, that would be a violation of, and they know they're going to have sex. That would be a violation of the Mann Act. If I got on the plane, nobody had me in shackles to get on the plane. I got on the plane, took the ticket willingly. You've had girls come and see you. I've had guys come see me. Since when is that a violation of the Mann Act? Because consenting adults decide to have consenting adult sex. That's all this was about. But there's this moral thing. This it's all fakery, and we both know, particularly in this day and age, where polyamorous now is the standard for many relationships, where you have multiple people in one bed, multiple people in one house, etc. I mean, these are adults. I have no confidence for this case, and the reason I think, Daryl, I think he could have been acquitted of everything had his lawyers not made one critical error. They didn't put on a single witness that knew him and that knew her. If I'm his sister, I would have seen Cassie for the last 12 years. Oh, I saw Cassie all the time. No, that's not true. We went shopping. We spent $1 million on Berkman bags. We spent $500,000 on Louis Vuitton clothes. Cassie was always okay. Cassie and he had a tumultuous relationship, but clearly there was no exploitation there. Never. If anything, it was the other way around. She was exploiting him for celebrity purposes, for money, for the purses, for the travel on a private jet. She'd never been on a private jet in her life. He exposed her to people and a lifestyle that she could only dream of. And she was the envy of her family and her friends. And all of her friends were jealous of her. That's what was happening here. And so there was no exploitation of her. And in terms of domestic violence is always wrong. I've been the victim of domestic violence. More than once, unfortunately. And I understand it. But you know what? For $20 million, Daryl, you could whip my behind on a tape in front of an elevator. For $20 million, cash-free dollars. Tax-free, not cash-free, tax-free dollars. You could whip, and I'm sure you would take a whipping from me for $20 million. It just ain't that deep.
And she still look good, right, Linda?
You said $20
million? Look good. I don't see no marks on her. She look all right to me. She came out on top for real. jail because she got $30 million.
Wait a minute. Wait, wait a minute. She ain't never seen more than $1,000 that she earned while we on the subject. She has never seen any of this kind of money. $1 million,
Well, hold,
20 million is a hell of a lot of money.
Well, hold on. Let me ask this question. Was he being tried for domestic violence?
Yes.
What? No. What was it? What was this? What was he charged with? Why did we have this trial? Because I'm seeing in the comments, people are saying that these charges were bogus, and it's very interesting. Perry Stein brings up an issue. He said Diddy isn't a mogul; he's an employee of Clive Davis, and other white executives are the real criminals, and they won't be touched.
None of them would be, of course not. When you have a freak on, what is it? I mean, these were adults. If they want to get their freak on, what has the government got to say about it? Give me a break. If you want to be part of a freak off, be part of a freak off. I have one rule, Santita. This is for everybody. I mean, I don't care what you do, Daryl. Period. As long as it doesn't involve children and animals. And then my girlfriend says to me, Linda, when did you get to be an animal rights person? I said, let me make this clear. Bestiality, I have none of that. And anybody, in my opinion, that's really under 20. Not just 18, because you're still 18, you're still a teenager. So but no, if you want to do it, do what you want to do. Who am I to tell you what not to do? And he wouldn't have been tried in any other country in the world, and we both know that. Not even Italy, which is Catholic.
And I think that Linda certainly is 100% correct, because what the case came down to was a question of consent, right? And what did Cassidy consent to? What did she not consent to? And one of the questions that was raised by the prosecution, or at least they tried to raise it, was with regards to the male escort that comes in to have sex with her, and
he's an old man.
And she's saying that she did not agree to it. She didn't want it.
Many men hire women, hire men to have sex with their wives. They hire men to have sex with their wives because they know that they're on the down. They going down the road the wrong way.
We can't talk over each other because we can't hear.
But you know that, Daryl.
Know what? I didn't hear what you said.
What I said is that married people will hire somebody to have sex with their wife because they know that they're older men and that they really can't handle it anymore, like a young guy can. Did you see the pictures of those guys? Those guys were like young thoroughbreds.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference between sex with him and sex with a 50-some-year-old guy.
I mean, my goodness. And this is what's so awful about this whole discussion, that sex has been reduced to some activity as opposed to a sacred act. I mean, and quite honestly, I'm still there on that. But what concerns me is that, I was watching social media, and so many people felt that, some people on the right, the so-called right, some of the biggest freaks I know are in the right wing. They were outraged, morally outraged. I'm like, morally outraged by what? Are you serious? They eliminated the the Page program in the House of Representatives because that was a freak off. You remember that?
Oh yeah, that was a freak off.
But wait a minute. I mean, Chaparral, I'm going to get your thoughts because what's interesting to me. A lot of pieces are interesting to me. You remember the Abercrombie and Fitch CEO?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There was let me just read this to you, everybody. He is now the ex-head of Abercrombie and Fitch. He had been straight. He was married to a woman. Then now he's gay. He's married to a man, and he the BBC did a big expose. More than 40 men, I quote from this BBC report from the beginning of this year in March 21st, 2025, more than 40 men have now come forward accusing the former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch of rape, sexual assault, or drugging, lawyers have told the BBC. Mike Jeffries, who was charged with sex trafficking in October, is facing multiple civil lawsuits, alleging he assaulted men under the guise of modeling opportunities with a fashion brand. He plied these men, many of whom, most of them were straight, plied them with all kinds of drugs, including muscle relaxers, so they could force them into sexual acts that they in which they did not want to engage. And this goes back to the 90s, everybody, when he first started working at Abercrombie and Fitch. And And you know what's amazing is that case, he was deemed unfit to stand trial. They said he's got dementia now. No one's talking about that. This is someone who pulled in young men. He's a he's a senior citizen. He, his husband, and his and one of his top employees had this operation. And anyone who's seen the Abercrombie and Fitch ads, they are really chic, like Calvin Klein, Ralph Lauren, and all of that. And yet, no one's talking about that. I mean, at all. I mean, that to me is at least as foul as all of this. But he won't even stand trial for that. So I mean, but wait a minute, Chappelle, what say you about this case? Because you have followed it.
I have, Santita. I have followed it every day, um, in regards to reading the transcripts as well as also just going through all the documents as much as was presented online. I will say, Santita, that I feel that the RICO charge was mainly charged to try to bankrupt him. That's why they went to so far. It wasn't about the actual evidence and trying to support it, but it was because they knew that if he got off on any of the other lower charges, they wanted to be able to bankrupt this man so that way he could no longer fight. We see that's what they tried to do with Michael Jackson. That's what they tried to do with R.
Bill
Kelly,
Cosby.
Bill Cosby. They tried to eliminate their wealth. And so that's why they charged him with RICO, because they wanted to make sure that he didn't have any money to fight. He was he took a big hit. Puffy has taken a big hit on his celebrity, but in that same realm, some people will bounce back, and unfortunately, I think he will be
I
one
do
of the
too.
types that will bounce back, and people still love him because it has to me when I was looking yesterday after the verdict was read, it gave me some symbolism of what happened when OJ was found not guilty. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that people were elated, not because they thought that Puffy was not guilty or what he did wasn't a crime. It's the atrocities that have occurred with Black people throughout the ages that has permitted this type of mindset that we are celebrating someone that we know probably is guilty of some crimes, but we're celebrating because so many crimes that have been accosted against us have never gone punished. So I think that more than anything, Santita, there is a racial aspect to this. The reason why the reason why he was charged is a racial aspect. They wanted to take another Black man down. We believe that. Look at his prosecutor. Everyone was rich, elite white women on their whole prosecution team, and they could not relate to they couldn't relate to the jurors, which is what I believe was the issue with them coming across. Cassie and Jane, they did not move me with their testimony, because I'm like, after he kicked your butt, you went back several times for several years. And the only reason why you separated from him because he went and got him another girl and you got jealous. They didn't leave because of the beating. Jane or Cassie did not leave because of the beating and the maltreatment of them. They left because they could no longer be the top girl. That's why they left.
What
Wait a
about
And
minute.
Daryl?
Jane was still getting. She's to today. She still sends her $10,000 a month for her rent, so her child could live. So you can't tell me you afraid of this man and you still accepting his money. So a lot of the things that they didn't, I don't think the prosecution actually walked through because they didn't see how that would play with the jurors, and I think that's why they lost.
Mhm.
What did her comments rub you the wrong way, Daryl? What?
Well, they did, and just a part of the comments did, and I just want to be certain that we're clear that, when we're talking about an abused spouse, a battered spouse, that stays in a relationship, it's not necessarily because of financial reasons. It could be fear reasons. It could be a lot of reasons that a person who is a battered spouse stays in a relationship. As a prosecutor, I oftentimes ask the question that Shapiro was asking when women, and particularly one of the battered spouse syndrome cases that I dealt with, the woman finally had enough of the beatings from the man over a number of years that she took his life. She shot him some 40, 50 times, whatever it was, loaded and reloaded and reloaded and reloaded until her anger was all out that had built up over the years. So when we're talking about someone that's in a battered spouse situation, and I don't want folks to walk away thinking that, well, it's a battered spouse. She can't be that bad because she didn't leave. It could be that she didn't leave, or he didn't leave because they were afraid to leave. It couldn't be they didn't leave because they knew they would come and find them where they were, and that the beating would be even worse than what they would endure if they just stayed. There are a number of reasons that women stay in relationships where they are a battered spouse. So I don't want to certainly leave an impression that because a woman doesn't walk away because she's been beaten one time, because she's been abused one time, that she's okay with it because of the money or anything else that she might be receiving. Because a lot of times, and many times, I shouldn't say a lot, but many times, it may be that she has no place to go. It may be that she's afraid to leave the situation, that there really is no safe place in her mind for her to go. So all of that, it gets factored in when you start talking about battered spouses and that part of the dynamic.
But Daryl, she wasn't that scared because she was cheating with Kid Cudi and she was cheating with the trainer. So if I'm scared of a man, I ain't gonna sit up here and put my life, knowing he might kick my butt. I ain't gonna cheat on a man. So I don't think she was as scared as she played that she was as scared, because you ain't gonna do that. You ain't gonna sit up here and be sleeping with a whole nother person, as well as also having a whole relationship with somebody else. You're not gonna do that. If you're that fearful, you're not gonna do it.
If you're that fearful, you go to the police. You go to the police. Or she has millions at her disposal.
Mm-hmm.
Millions. Come on.
But was he being tried for beating her? That's my question. Is
No.
that what I mean, that because
He wasn't tried for domestic violence.
See, because I'm saying we're discussing her, and mind you, watching her beaten in the hall was very disturbing. But what's also disturbing, I must say, and some people will be upset by my saying this. Number one, I think that beating anyone, because there are men who are battered as well.
Correct. I've represented them.
And that is awful. It is awful. That having been said, people are also ambitious, Daryl Shapiro.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people will do anything. People will compromise themselves so that they can realize their ambitions. And in this industry, you absolutely see that. And in fact, I think Ms. Ventura lost part of the jury when it was said of her in trial, and it struck me. What I think Sean Combs' assistant said, you need to leave him. What are you doing? And she said, Jay-Z is taken.
Mm-hmm.
And that already lets you know, because this man has been so powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just grew in wealth and stature, right? And you already know that he has a woman who he has publicly referred to as a significant other, Kim Porter. And she's so deep in that you can talk to her because she doesn't even care anymore, because his family and his emotional life really is with her.
Mm-hmm.
Every woman, anytime you're with a man, you know when that man is really, if you're not the one. Now, I didn't say the only one. I said the one, because every man has the one. He might have a lot of other ones, but you know who the one is. And if you're not the one, she's the only one who makes you uncomfortable. I'm just speaking to you as a woman now. You know when your man, when that woman does it for him, and every man has that one person who does it for them. So Kim Porter didn't care about walking the red carpet. That was clear. She wanted to raise her kids and go on about her business.
Correct.
He was going to do what he was going to do, and she was done with that. They had exhausted that, but they were all right. And you can see that something happened with them that was okay because their children have such affection for him. There's something to be said for that. It's not just the money. I don't think, even though money can be a factor, there appears to be an affection that his children have for him. So
Mhm.
my point is, I'm trying to get to why he was on trial, why all this money was spent, because I was like, racketeering. What are you talking about? Everyone knows that one of the most vulgar institutions is the music business. Come on, you guys. Ain't nothing clean about it. It is a horrible business. When I told my mother, I don't want to go to medical school. I want to be a singer. My mother was devastated, sick, and furious. But I had an opportunity with a friend of ours who had probably the most prominent black record company of the 80s, Solar Records. You know Dick Griffey, uh,
I know
Linda.
it.
And my mother said about the only person I would let you even fool with would be Dick because he's our friend. And I know. And then my father said, no, let's talk to Roberta. Because she's at the top of the food chain. Both of them were very honest. They said she's got some talent to work with. My father said she's an artist and she has gone to school. She went to university. She is a dissertation away from her PhD. I think she'll be a more comfortable fit for you. I love Dick, but I think you need to be over here. And she wouldn't let me go anywhere in New York because all of these parties are crazy, y'all. They are.
Mhm.
All of them.
They're crazy. So I mean, and not that I was not even inclined to go to any of these parties. So I'm saying everybody. And I have friends who've been executives in these record companies. People have been big lawyers in the media companies. All of that. And there's some people get invited to the parties, Daryl and Chaparral and Linda, and other people who do not. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying, with all of that being understood, I think that's what the jury was. The
Mhm.
jury understood that because they looked. I think at some point, because I read some reports that some of the jurors were falling asleep. Because at some point, it's like, what are we? Why are we here? Because I would have been like, what are we talking about? What are we? What? Because Daryl, Linda, Chappelle, what was this about? I still
It
don't.
was about trying to take down a black man of substance who was a billionaire. When he had his interest in Ciroc, there was litigation that was pending. Daryl, I think you probably know about it.
Right?
Litigation pending with Ciroc about the ownership.
Mhm.
That was his idea, just like Jay Z started what's that other Jadaris or whatever it's called, that
Right.
dark. I was present when Jay Z and Beyonce did that. We were at the Super Bowl in New Orleans, but he started his liquor, and then Puff
Well,
Daddy started Ciroc.
no. Well, he didn't start it. What he did was he took a brand that was
Right,
a brand that had no value
right,
and gave it the value.
right.
Now, what you have to understand is, you got to understand when something does not belong to you. See, it will be one thing because these folks will take it from you if you made it, if you built it.
Mhm.
I mean, Jean Nate was created by a black man. No one knows that. They'll take your stuff.
Wow,
They got no problems doing that. They
that's right.
do it. Okay. But having said that, I think it because while I'm protective of black people who are under attack, there is, Suge Knight has been interviewed and he's been saying, well, he has some deeper connections to the police because
Mhm.
he's been able to get away with. Remember that shooting? What was that with J Lo that J Lo walked away from? But it was a big mess. Shine took the hit, went to prison. This woman said this didn't go down the way it went down. Everybody's been saying, now wait a minute. The question was, outside of the trial, has he been an informant or has he been an asset? So to me, it's just it's real murky, right? It ain't none of this clean. And yeah, are they trying to take a black man out? Yes, but
A billionaire black man,
but
just
I
like
don't. You know what? I don't care about that. What bothers me is that these people have been pushing a product in the form of music that has softened our children up for the prison industrial complex. That for me is a bigger problem. And
I
no,
agree.
and we need to start looking at that, because instead of having black-owned companies, we had black-headed companies. And with these black-headed companies, black women became bees and black men became ends, and we got a mess. And they were at the he and Russell Simmons and that whole crew and Andre Harrell and a few others were at the forefront of that. And that to me is problematic. So while them taking down a black man, I don't agree with that. But I don't agree with black folks being paid to take us out
Mm-hmm.
by degrading the culture and acting like that is not what you're doing. Again, I'm asking y'all, what was this about? Because I am still trying to figure it out. And wait, let me ask you another question. Starting with you, Daryl, the sentencing. First of all, why did they put him back in prison? They wouldn't even let him be released of his own recognizance.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be held. He's going to be held until he finishes serving time. That's clear. And he's being put in prison, which ain't safe. So help me to understand. What kind of sentence do you expect this judge or a judge to hand down? And will they be served consecutively or concurrently, in your opinion? And I'm going to go to you, Linda, and ask you that question as well.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, what happens on the sentencing side and what's happened through the case, right, is that initially when the person is charged, when Puffy is charged, they did not set a bail. They didn't let him out on a bail because they felt as though, the questions that are asked is, is there a threat to society or a threat to anyone involved in the case, and will he appear when he's directed to do so by the court? So initially, with that going through, the judge then said, that they didn't feel comfortable releasing him at all. And remember, there were a couple of bail reviews that they had, and the judge continued to say, given the nature of the charges, given everything that's out there, given his wealth and his ability to flee, that the judge did not feel free releasing him, that he would appear when he was directed to do so for trial in the case. And that was with the presumption that he's innocent, right? That, they assume for purposes of setting bail that you committed the offenses that you're alleged to have committed. And they're trying to set a bail and believe whether or not you're going to appear when you're directed to do so. So initially, the judge did not feel as though he was going to appear when he was supposed to appear, that he had the wealth to be able to flee and not
Let
come
me
back.
interrupt you for that. What the judge said about the bail was that he would exercise undue influence on the witnesses. It wasn't that he was going to flee. He turned himself in. Remember, he
Right.
came up and turned himself in, and he said, "I'll post a $10 million, $100 million bond." He agreed to all of that. But they felt that he would be able to contact people and change their testimony. That's
Right. Right. But all of that
he was never a flight risk.
right. He may not
now,
have
are
been,
you sure he wasn't a flight risk? Because he was down in Florida, awfully close to his plane. It looked like
He was.
but all of that is what factors into the judge's decision as to whether or not to have someone released on a bond, is whether or not they'll influence a case, whether or not they'll influence witnesses in a case, whether or not they'll appear when they're directed to do so. All of that are the factors that the judge uses in making that decision. Now, having done that, right, and not having released him prior to the trial, now you have a verdict where the person has been found guilty of something. And the question is, now that they've been found guilty of something, they then have a hearing, a bond hearing, if you will, to look at it again to make a decision as to whether or not, now that the most serious charges are gone and the lesser included offenses, is what we call them, are there. Is there a reason to release this person? What's the potential sentence that I will impose as the judge? Should I release the person thinking that they'll come back to be sentenced and I put them in jail? That doesn't necessarily flow very well. What would make sense, and what I sort of read from the tea leaves, what the judge is doing here, is that if you're going to do that time served sentence of, I don't know, what is it, 6 months to 15 months, I think is what the is what it's calculated to with regards to the guidelines. If you're going to do something along those lines, then if you just keep them incarcerated until the time of the sentencing, even if it's 24 months, if you keep them incarcerated until the time of sentencing, then you can more justifiably go ahead with the time served sentence, that the time you serve fits within the guidelines. Therefore, I'm going to release you. They could have still done that and put him on a home detention pending the sentencing in this case, but they did not do that. The judge did not elect to do that. So it's a little concerning to me with regards to what the judge is looking at on the sentencing side. They are looking at the maximum sentence for each of those charges being 10 years. Each charge carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. And if they are run concurrently, meaning that they would run together, whatever portion of that 10 years that will be served could be served, or the judge could do something consecutively, meaning that it would be a maximum of 20 years then that he would be facing if they did a maximum consecutive sentence. A lot of the decisions of the judge is going to be determined by the testimony that he's heard from the witness booth and what the witnesses have testified to. That's what the judge is looking at. I would anticipate that it sounds like it should be some type of time served sentence. I'm assuming that the judge probably is continuing to hold him so that when he comes back for his sentencing, he can say he has served X period of time. That is what I think is appropriate in this case. I'm going to put some period over his head and release him.
I think it's an abuse of discretion. First of all, that they have the nerve to put Puff Daddy in a maximum security prison, where incidentally we held the people who were involved in 9/11 and the Bin Laden people and all these kind of people. I mean, it's an outrage that a person who didn't have a criminal record. I think you said he did. I didn't know that, but we'll come back. But anyway. Certainly no.
No, I didn't say he had a record. I said there was that shooting at that club.
Yeah, and he was acquitted. But certainly no crimes that were of a maximum. Even this is actually a financial crime. That's what RICO was all about when it comes to a criminal financial enterprise. I mean, to be in that facility with those people that are in there is unbelievable. And then to make him stay there even longer when he agrees to be under house arrest right around the corner, and you can also pay the cost for the U.S. attorney, not U.S. attorney, but for federal officers to be present at the place that you're supposed to be in, like they did the white boy who was the computer person who went to the Bahamas. When he came back to New York, he ripped off billions of dollars from the United States and from our friend Maxine Waters and everybody else. He ripped off all this money from the United States government and from private individuals, and he was allowed to be at home for his while they were going through his case and everything. And that's where he still is right now. He's been there like more than 2 years now. I mean, this was outrageous that they did this to Diddy. Unbelievable. He shouldn't have been in that jail in the first place.
Chaparral, what are your thoughts?
Santita, I think that when I look at the not only the Diddy case but the R. Kelly case, I'm not advocating for either one because both of them are, to me personally, are sexual sadists. However, I do believe in equity and fairness in our prosecution. I do think that the prosecutors are very selective. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that they're only selecting the Black people to prosecute. Mm-hmm. And those are the ones, that we're seeing actually being taken down for these crimes. I mean, when I think about the Playboy Mansion, everybody wanted to go to the Playboy Mansion. And we all know what was happening in the Playboy Mansion. It was drugs, sex, and alcohol.
And you went there for that.
Correct.
You went there for that. And so my thing is that you let Hugh Hefner roll over and die, and you never questioned. If you ask the Playboy bunnies what was going on, they'll tell you the same exact thing.
Wait a minute, Chaparral. And they were underage.
Yes, they were.
I'm like, what?
but Chappelle, let me make that point. This point
Oh
about Hugh
my.
Hefner. This is important because one of the girls that Bill Cosby met at the Hugh Hefner mansion is now like 64 some years old or something, and she's like, he is in court right now with that lady Santita that represents everybody, the white lady that goes, every woman is a victim, and she goes around the
Gloria
country.
Allred.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gloria
her.
Allred.
Yeah.
She's representing a white girl right now who says that Bill Cosby inappropriately touched her at the Playboy Mansion 55 years ago,
Wait a
and
minute. Wait, would you break
that
down
that
just a
litigation
minute?
is current.
Wait a minute. At the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, honey, you don't go there. That ain't church. Are you
Correct.
serious? They have a pool. I mean, I don't even know. I've never been to the Playboy Mansion, but we did know Hugh Hefner. That's because he was active in the civil rights movement. We knew that's where we met him and entered with him and appreciate that. That having been said, if you want to make it in Hollywood, come on, y'all. This is how you do it. Just stop. Renee said, and and to show you that there's something off here, she said, I'm disturbed that Diddy didn't get arrested when he was seen beating her on the hotel footage. They paid somebody off, and that was the end of that. And she also went on to say that Didn't Cassie say she stayed because he was supposed to help her music career. She was signed to him. Maybe she thought she could be the next J Lo. I don't know, but it sounds like quid pro quo was in play.
Hmm.
See, that's when it gets to be not so. How should I?
Santita, both girls made uh choices.
Yeah.
They both made critical choices. Like for me, I know the type of woman I am. It's certain things that you're not going to be able to even present to me. The fact that he was able to present that type of polyamorous life to them, and they said, okay, once they agreed to that, he no longer respected them. And
Hmm.
he put them in the box that he wanted them to be, which was his toy box. And so when I see women like Cassie and Jay, I felt bad to see them go through that. But a lot of it also, they have to take accountability. Because you couldn't tell me, hey, Chappelle, come and use, let's do some drugs, let's do some cocaine, I'd be like, hell no, I ain't doing, I don't even get down like that. Why
Me
are
either.
you even bringing this to me? You know what I'm saying? So you couldn't even bring that type of stuff to me. You couldn't tell me, okay, I want you to go over here and have sex with this man while I watch. I'd be like,
Oh
no, you don't.
hell no.
You know, no, you it's certain he knew who he could bring this stuff to. He
And
couldn't
wait a
bring it
minute.
to a real woman. He just
And,
couldn't do it.
and they always do. I mean, because let's be honest. You know, people might try you, but they know who you are,
Hmm.
and they know what you are unwilling to do. And look, men put you in boxes. Particularly, I can say this on Christian experience. Black men, black men are real funny this way. What Chris Rock even had a little routine about it. He talked about, getting honest in a relationship and okay, why don't you open up your little black book for me? I'll open up mine for you. And he might have 100 women in them. She might have one, and he is like, "You are a fallen woman." I'm putting it very politely, and it must be how you was raised. Black men are real funny about that, and men can be real funny about the woman. I mean, about the woman who either they exalt you or they bury you. I'm just sorry. That's just the reality of it, y'all. I ain't mad at nobody. I'm just saying this. And Renee, you coming up with some good ones today. She said, "Was the physical trainer?" You don't really follow this. Okay, I'm glad we did this. Was the physical trainer that she married, who will benefit from some of the millions of the
All
settlement
of them.
dollars, aware of the abuse while he was her trainer? Because he was also his trainer. Remember, what did he see? Did he help her escape?
There was no escape. Her warranty had expired. Diddy had kicked her to the curb. She was already yesterday's news. He had new toys, new girls that were younger and finer. It's just that damn simple. I mean, her warranty had expired. She was gone, girl, gone. So no, she didn't have to escape.
Right.
He escaped her, and
No,
then she
Linda,
got
she was
mad.
strung out. She was strung out. He stopped liking her because she was strung out.
Well,
You know,
he
Wow.
that's
also
why she was. That's why he found some more girls because he was telling her at the end, "Do you have to get half?" So she was like, uh, She was done with it. I mean, she maybe because of the situation, she was having all these problems. But the reality is that she made those choices. She
Well,
made
you
those
have
choices
you
on
have
her
to
own.
watch out for these trainers, Santita, because
Absolutely.
the number one football player in the world with eight Super Bowls, is it right? His wife just had a baby by her trainer. So you got to watch out for these trainers that the women have,
Well, you,
because now Cassie has three by her trainer. So you
well,
got to watch
well,
out for
she's
these
married to
guys.
him. But well, I think you have to watch out. Period, because remember, Kanye's trainer was going to have him institutionalized, which was very very bizarre. Perry Stein, you really posed some very interesting propositions today. You said again, you're supposed to believe that black guys like Jay-Z run the record business, no white billionaire run the business. Be very clear, Perry. I am very clear on that. They're the people who ran Al Bell out of the business,
That's true.
who owned Stax. They ran Barry Gordy out of the business. Okay. That is what they do. There's a book by Dr. Logan Westbrook. Really, he is reviewing the Harvard study. Al Bell, who owns Stax Record, used to tell me about it when I was growing up. It's taken 5 decades for it to become public, and it shows how Clive Davis, once again, they commissioned a study at Harvard to find out what the new trend in the record business was going to be, and they said, "Pay dirt is black music." That's the growth part of the record industry, and the heart and soul of popular music is black music. And they said, we're going if you want to really look at the blackest record company, it would not be Motown because they're pop. You got to look at Stax because they've done something very special. They took gut bucket soul music and mainstreamed it. That's a really tall order. Gut bucket soul, the staple singers. I mean, they even
Isaac
took
Hayes
that's
was
what
the
they did for the
janitor.
hook.
Isaac Hayes was the
Absolutely.
janitor at Stax,
And, but I
pushing
mean,
his
when
broom
you
and mumbling.
when you look at Ben, a brilliant songwriter, he and Sam and Dave. I mean, all these people. When you look at Aretha Franklin is essentially a Stax artist. They sent her from Atlantic down to be with Stax studio musicians. That's where she came up with respect and all of that. That yeah, I mean, and that's and who died at around that time. It was all these people who were fighting for their independence. Sam Cooke, who had all of his music stolen out from under him by his partner, Mr. Klein. He was on his way to meet him in New York that Sunday when he was killed Thursday night, Friday morning. And when who is it? When Etta James saw him in the casket, she said, "That's Sam has been decapitated." Decapitation doesn't mean they cut your neck; it means your neck is disconnected from your spine. She said his nose was broken. You could tell that he had been in a fight, and it is alleged that he was actually dead when they got him to the motel. So the record industry has always been very problematic, and so I appreciate you, Perry Stein, but be very clear. I harbor no illusions. There was Goddard, I think it was Goddard Lieberman, when they were trying to take when they were in the process of taking Stax records from Al Bell, and to show you how crazy these people are, he liked for you to call him God, not Goddard. Mr. Lieberman. Crazy. They were having this big meeting, and he told Al Bell, "I have more money and more time than you." And Mr. Bell responded, "You might have more money, but time I don't know." That's the arrogance and the evil and the wickedness of that industry. But what differentiated Al Bell and Berry Gordy from Puff and Russell Simmons and Andre Harrell is that they owned their stuff. Michael Jackson was buying instead of buying fancy clothes and cars and whatnot, he bought catalogs.
That's correct.
And and R. Kelly was sitting on top of his catalog. The problem with Robert is that he is functionally illiterate, so people could steal the catalog from him because they were blackmailing him. But he still has hundreds of songs that no one has heard. Same thing with Prince. And they've all met these crazy ends. Maria, how you doing? Totally agree on the music. And Or what is Candace Owens showed a connection between him, the security guard who was planted at Michael Jackson's before his murder, and the FBI. Honey, I can tell you stories. It's horrible. And you're right, Maria, degrading the culture. That's what they've done. That's what they've done. Renee said, ooh, his music and the pants down his butt, promoted by Puff, because many of the people who control the record industry, Daryl and Chappelle and Linda, they also they moved into the private prison industry. And so the records became the vehicle for them to soften up the black culture and move us into the prison pipeline. So prison became cool for us. That's what they promoted. And a brilliant investigative journalist by the name of Whitney Webb, who I'm going to reach out to, I want her on this show to talk about that. Because many of us who knew the industry saw it, and it's been very, very painful just to see this come to fruition. So what Renee said, the music he promoted, the lifestyle, that's right, changed our culture for the worst. John Walsh said, the big, beautiful bill is your legacy. SJ, congrats. No, honey, it's not mine. I didn't kneecap Kamala. Joe Biden did that. Read the books, honey. He told her that she had no date. There was no daylight between her and his policy that people did not want. I didn't do that, my sweet. Stop trolling. Bless your heart. So, I mean, this has been, that's right. Back in the day, rap was conscious. I know, because it was rap. It was not hip hop. Okay. And it was black owned. Sylvia Robinson, Sugar Hill Records. I'm real clear. Mm-hmm. I remember the Sugar Hill Gang. I remember Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I remember all of that. That's what I grew up with. I saw it turn when they married it to hard rock, which was always laden with drugs and all of that, and it changed the culture.
That's true.
And it's a horrible thing. This is what they've done. This is what they've done. You know what? We have run over, and so, oh boy, you know, I think we could talk about this. We could talk about it. You said they never investigated Epstein files. That's right. That's right.
The reason why is they said was because our president was on them.
Well, and look, and you know what? You don't know who was on Puff's tapes. No. All these people are in this thing. And you know what? Y'all can do whatever it is that you want to do, but stop lying about it. That's my thing. Just stop it. And what did you say? And Renee said, did the new husband, Cassie, presumably?
Of course he did. Of course he did. He was in court every day.
Why would that make a difference to you? Hold on. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson Show. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson Show. We are continuing our discussion about Puff. And boy, oh boy, this is like taking a turn into other areas. And so I'm with it. I'm rolling with it. Because Chappelle's still here and Chappelle's in a car. But go on. What were you saying, Linda? Attorney Linda Bernard and
of course he was in court every day with her. She's carrying this whole thing was a pantomime. Her big stomach sitting there. But of course she agreed to testify. Who would do that every day? You know, being pregnant like that. But he was there every day. Yeah, he's the sack man. He was sack chasing when he got to her. He started, I think, all of the physical conditioning, and of course he fell in love with her. I fell in love with a woman too that had everything in the world, and it was dealing with a man that was a billionaire. And so then he falls, and then he kicks, and then Puffy kicks her to the curb because, as my brother says, and this is a horrible expression, her warranty had expired. There's a certain time when women get older, so Bobby says their warranty has expired. So her warranty had expired. So there's fresh meat. We're the new sweet young tenders. And so there's a whole bunch of them. Taller, sharper, prettier, smarter, everything. Educated.
Well, you know, when you're in that part of the business, sadly, I mean, look, we can sit on our high horses and go, this is so terrible. Come on, everybody, let's keep it 100. Sadly. This is the business that you're in. What did they say in The Godfather? Hey, this is the business I've chosen. This is the business I'm in, and that's that.
Beauty is a commodity, but it is only skin deep. So therefore, you go to a new commodity. You just don't have to. You have to do this. I mean, it just is what it is.
Well, then let
Men
me.
are attracted to fine young women. They are.
And and thank God for that.
Yes,
I'm no longer young, but I try to keep it tough.
but you're fine.
I try, but I hope.
So
Look,
is Chappelle.
but absolutely, absolutely. Well, she's already got her fine husband, and she's gone on, and she's working this poor man to death, but he's loving it. That having been said, yes, yes, yes. That
Daryl,
having been said, that having been said, both of her daughters have two handsome, wonderful husbands, and so they figured out something. But I'm gonna tell you, and to that point, um, was morality on trial here? Because I'm trying to figure out. Well, of course, we're still talking with you, attorney Linda Bernard, and attorney Daryl Jones, and Chaparral Wells, and Robert and Perry Stein. You all have really been giving some wonderful commentary today. And Perry, who are you? You said COINTELPRO, it's all there. You're right. I'm telling you, no, I mean, there's much more to this because show business and our government have been interlocked, and we see what you don't see. You have Michael Bublé. You have Taylor Swift, who's not twerking. You have um, you have Diana Krall. You have Celine Dion. You have white people who just stand at the microphone and sing. Taylor Swift being an exception, kind of.
Mhm.
But black folks have to come and degrade the culture. And I think that we have to begin to say, are you willing to sell your soul just for a few dollars for some silver? I mean, really? Because we're seeing a degradation of the culture, everybody. And it was very, very painful to watch that. We act as if, Daryl, we have all of this space. I mean, do you know how hard it has been for a black woman to be considered a lady? How we've had to fight for that? Black men have had no rights that a white man was bound to respect, but black women have had no virtue that they were bound to respect either. Black women have been getting raped right and left, left and right. Look at us on this panel. We're products of that. And then to see this put on display has just been heartbreaking. Just on the social side of things, Daryl.
Mhm.
It's been awful. I mean, how do you explain this to children, Daryl?
Wow, and, it's a tough one on how to explain the children. But one of the things that I walk away from this with, as with my prosecutor hat, when I was a prosecutor with the prosecutor hat, is that I get concerned for what it means for women that were really victims of these types of situations. Will they be willing to come forward? Does it encourage those that are true? And the jury here has spoken. But women that are true victims of these situations, does this dissuade them from going to the authorities? Does this dissuade them from coming against the people that are abusing them? And that, I think, is one of the pieces that we've got to look at. Look, when it comes to to Sean Combs and what happens from here, Santita, I think you're right. There's a great potential for the bounce back that could happen from here, because one of the things that we know is that particularly the African American community, when they feel as though someone has been wrong, when they feel as though that they've been that the system has gone after them, that they're willing to get behind them, to stand with them. One example of that is Marion Barry, right? Where the community got behind him and stood with them. Another example would be
No. But wait a minute. Let me say with Marion Barry. Marion Barry had served the community.
Mm-hmm.
The only person Marion Barry hurt was Marion Barry.
That's correct.
Marion Barry never stole any money. Marion Barry was so beloved and so respected that the night that he was arrested, one of my girlfriends was in his cabinet. She called me. I was in New York. I'd been there not long, maybe a few months, having been in Washington because I went to Howard.
Mm-hmm.
And she called me, heartbroken, crying. She said, "You got to call your father because this is what has happened to Marion Barry." I said, "Oh, wow, they got him." Okay. I said, "Well, don't worry about it." I said, "Because they're going to put him in prison and he's going to come out and become mayor again." He said, "Did you hear what I just said?" I said, "Yeah, I understand." Because it was like 10:30 or something. So it was about to hit the national news.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was about to hit the news in a big way.
I remember.
And so I said, I'm gonna call. I'll call Dad if he doesn't know already. But I just want you to know that he's going to be able to be reelected because everyone knows
Mm-hmm.
that he has been targeted by Joe DeGeneva
Mm-hmm.
and the U.S. government, and folks are going to be mad about it.
Right.
What Marion Barry did, I have to digress a minute. He created an entrepreneurial class for Black people in Washington, D.C., which heretofore had not existed.
Which became
Robert
the model for
Johnson-
every other city, including Detroit. His model was the
His
blueprint.
model was the blueprint.
Right.
He gave us Robert and Sheila Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Did they help him? No.
Not
But
at
he
all.
had the opportunity to give that cable station to Percy Sutton in New York or Robert Johnson. He said, I'm going to give it to a hometown guy.
And Coleman Young gave it to Don Barton in Detroit. Same, based on Marion.
That just, I mean, so I'm simply saying, wait a minute, before we, I had to say that because we don't call Marion Barry's name enough.
Mm-hmm.
And when he died, and I had the privilege of singing at his funeral, and my father gave the eulogy.
Mm-hmm.
It was a state funeral, not at the cathedral. It had to be in the convention center, where
Correct.
tens of thousands of people
That's correct.
they attended, and he deserved that.
Correct.
A state in Southeast, which is the blackest part of Washington,
The
Mm-hmm.
Ward 8, the worst ward in DC.
That's right.
and stayed there to give hope to the community. He did that.
That's
There
right.
are lovely parts of Southeast, and he stayed in that. But he wanted the people of Southeast to know that he was there.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And because of that, he was such a revolutionary that when Chicago was hostile to us, when Reverend was running for president, he said, "We're not going to worry about that. You come to Washington. You need to be in Washington anyway." He turned over his top staff because we just started running, Daryl and Linda.
Mhm.
Linda was there because Linda was in the campaign, and Chaparral. He turned over Ivanhoe Donaldson, who was from SNCC. He and my father gone back to their college days. He turned over all of his people. I mean, Anita, I can just go through all the people. He turned his top staff, his inner circle over to us to start that campaign.
I didn't know that.
No,
I did not know that.
that's who Marion Barry is.
Mm-hmm.
Not was, who he is. And
But-
so we talk about people who stand 10 toes down
Mm-hmm.
for our people and for all people. That's Marion Barry. And I have to say that because I want people to know that, because these people we have out here today are surely working for themselves, and that is the tragedy.
That's true.
That to me, that's a tragedy because they're not giving anything.
That's right.
They're not giving anything. I mean, I'm not trying to just save another black billionaire. I don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
What are you contributing? You know what Bill Cosby did? Before he made that Cosby Show money, he was sending people to college. And he believed in black people so much that at the height of his fame, he sent his son to Morehouse and his daughter to Spelman. He thought that much of HBCU.
And gave him a ton of money.
Hey.
And then they gave him the stiff arm.
Oh, absolutely. When I had that horrifying experience at Harvard, among the two only few friends that my parents had who called me and said, "You have worked so hard, Santita. You don't need this garbage. Howard is a great school. You ought to be proud of the full scholarship you've earned there. That's where you need to go. You don't need this garbage. You don't need Harvard. Go to Howard." That's how much. And who do we have now? We have people who are pushing a prison culture on us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're filling up the prisons. I mean, have your freak off, but you don't let everybody know it. Are you serious?
They're gonna talk about it. It's been going on for years.
No, I mean, just understand. Don't bring our children into that.
Yeah.
There were no children there.
No. There were children there, and then he would announce from his balcony, "Now it's about time for the children to leave."
He'd have a big party.
No,
Okay.
no, no. But what I'm saying is, what you don't do, don't even bring the children to have another party another day. You have if you're going to have a party, have your party, and if the children can come, you don't need to make an announcement of that. So when I get home, I got to ask mommy and daddy what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have some standards, and the standards need to be high. And what we have seen is vulgarity on parade, and we need to call it what it is. But that should not send you to prison.
I agree.
So I'm still trying to find out from the lawyers, and Chappelle has been digging down into this case. What have we just seen here? Hello, help me.
Chappelle or us?
Well,
Y'all.
well, what we've seen is selective prosecution. That's what we've seen. We know that there is a basic. They made a decision to try him because I believe they wanted to get him on the physical abuse, but the statute of limitations were over. And I do believe also that this has also elements to do with him and Chirac. You know, it's a lot of things that they wanted to take him. The reason why they wanted him to be taken down, he pissed off the wrong people, as
He
they say,
did.
and so
And Ciroc.
that made him vulnerable to that attack. But also, I am concerned with him still being incarcerated because we see that right now R. Kelly has 3 blood clots in his leg and his lung, and they won't let him get treated.
What do
And
you mean?
we don't know what's going to happen. You know, people take you out.
Well, because you know what they want. They want his catalog.
Yeah.
Like all of this comes down. They want Bill Cosby's. They want his stake in the Cosby Show. This is the most successful television show in American history. They won't say it until they own it again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they want. Michael Jackson, they want it.
His catalog.
All his catalogs. He had one of the top 3 most prestigious catalogs in all of music.
Beatles.
Not just the Beatles. He didn't have the whole Beatles catalog. He had a few songs in that first cache that he bought. Bo Diddley and Little Richard were in that too. So Paul McCartney's supposed to be able to own Bo Diddley and Little Richard and Michael cannot. Michael went to Paul McCartney first. It was reported in Jet Magazine. It was reported there. He said, "Hey, one of your catalogs, a catalog. Some of your songs are in it. I can buy this. I won't touch it if you want it." He said, "Those are nothing songs. You could just have at it." When you get involved in that kind of sale, you have to sign papers and you have to guarantee, you have to put your money down, Daryl, Linda, and Pearl. And remember when Elon Musk tried to pull out of the Twitter deal? He couldn't do it. Remember he went to court on it? Because he had to sign papers on it. He had to commit the money. You can't just say, "I want to buy it." You have to commit the cash. And once you've committed the cash, if you're not outbid, you have a legal obligation to buy what you said you were going to buy. But Paul McCartney has not told the truth about Michael. Like Michael stole this from him. That is a lie. All this stuff is about, it is about the money. I mean, because he owns Revolt TV. There's a lot, but I just, I
Yeah, he had to step down after the indictment. Right, I saw that he owned Revolt TV, Ciroc.
I'm just torn because I saw him doing some things I thought that were good and solid, and I saw him doing some other things that made me go, I don't know. But I don't like this. If you're going to indict someone and take away their freedom and their wealth, you got to give me a better reason than what y'all ain't giving me no reason. I'm still trying to figure out what this was about, Linda and Chappelle.
Being with the freak of the week. That ain't a good reason.
Well, you know what? Do you see Perry Stein? Perry, I love you. He said, "Hey, the real abusers live in the Hamptons, the Upper East Side, and Beverly Hills. The police will not arrest these people. They'll protect them. It wasn't just Hugh Hefner." Amen. Look, Perry, you know what's up.
That's true.
Okay, and Robert Williams, you said what they did to Barry and Barry was some extra mess. By the way, Daddy Bush did him, and oh boy, I mean, we just need to just come on, everybody. This is oh. And what did you say, Perry? You on a roll today. I don't know how you found us, but I'm glad you did. You said how many white evangelical preachers have been outed as abusers, uh, and they usually get a slap on the wrist. Eventually, Trump will pardon them. And do you think that President Trump will pardon Diddy? His team have formally asked. They formally asked for a pardon. What do you think is going to happen, Linda? Do you think that Trump might pardon him?
Yep.
Why?
Yep. Because he's innocent, and because two, Trump was a player too. Guys who are players have lots of beautiful women around them all the time, do all kinds of stuff. I mean, it just is. Uh, um, I really think he will, if it comes to that.
Mm. Well,
And
guess
I, and,
what?
and I think it helps Trump.
How
I
so?
don't think it'll hurt him.
It'll help. I think given the
It's
sentiment
going to
that I'm
help him with
seeing,
black folks.
the sentiment I'm seeing, I didn't realize how much support Diddy had.
Oh, he has a hell of a lot of support because everybody knew it was a fake charge. When you living with a guy with that would be like me, you suing Jeff Bezos or something. When you take the benefits of the relationship, you take the responsibilities. It's just that simple. You could step anytime you want to, but when you decide to stay and you want to continue to take all, you still flying private. You ain't been on a commercial jet in years. I mean, you got the lifestyle. So if you're not addicted to anything else, you're addicted to the lifestyle.
Hmm.
So, and that's a hell of a lifestyle. To have the plane waiting for you on the tarmac every time you get ready to go somewhere. So it is what it is. I mean, but I don't understand why she did it in the first place because the 20 million. But see how they got around it was that even when you sign a settle, the nature of the way that she settled the lawsuit is it gives she couldn't talk about any of this. She couldn't write a book. She couldn't do anything. But in this, there's always a caveat in most of these kind of settlements that says if you get a subpoena, you have to respond to the subpoena.
But wait a minute. That now there are reports from media takeout, and they've been reputable. Uh, there are um, there are reports that he might be suing her to get his money back
I hope
because
so.
apparently some parts I need you to move over to your left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's all right. And because while she had to respond to the subpoena, apparently there was something else that violated the terms of the NDA.
Oh,
And
good,
oh wow,
good. Get her money and watch her husband leave her. He's there for the Benjamins too. They're all just big pimping, you know, off of her and her quote a relationship,
wow,
which some people refer to as being a sex worker.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, Renee remembers that this video that I saw, a member of Bone Thugs and Harmony said there was a meeting with powerful men from the private prison system who wanted, they got them out there. I remember that, Renee, and she said, who wanted rappers to produce the kind of music that would fill their cells and their pockets. And they were, apparently, this was in Bel Air or Beverly Hills, some inclusive uh, community in LA. And it was a super secret meeting, and they were sworn to secrecy. And this particular guy walked out of the meeting.
Well, it doesn't matter because the girls are part of it too. I don't know if you looked at your phone recently, but somebody just sent me pictures of what's her name, Megan Thee Stallion, being able to twerk while literally like on the back of her heels, but she can move her butt while she's totally bent down to the floor and keep walking that way. But my point is the twerking is the same thing. I mean, if you really want, I mean, everybody now twerks. I mean, all the actresses twerk. I mean, we're from just a female standpoint. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You have to be a good athlete though, because your knees have to be really
Yeah, but
strong.
no, but wait, but just things. You know what? I wouldn't want to see my nieces doing that or my godchildren. I just, at some point, the standards have gone over.
They're doing it, Santita.
I don't care. I
They
don't
know how to do it.
I don't care. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't care what. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care. At some point, somebody has got to make some sense, and somebody's got to have some morality. Maria, you said, can I get some more info? What is his name again? Just send me. I don't know exactly what your question is. Can you resend it? And Renee is saying, Renee Criswell, she said, drugs, it's a weapon they have used against many of our people who've made such beautiful music and politicians who looked out for us. Absolutely. And Robert agrees with you. And so does Andre. He says, Renee, you are absolutely correct. Um, and what is it? I'm trying to see. She said they're trying to destroy us. Usher was a child when he was exposed to that depraved Hollywood culture, and they asked him because he was Diddy's charge, and someone asked him in an interview, "Would you let your child go be experience what you experienced?" He said, "Absolutely not." I said, "Oh my lord!" And you see, I mean, you can look at the people who look like they have been so damaged by all of this. You know, oh my gosh, it's just painful.
Well, people are damaged by a lot of things, and most of the time they're not living in a lap of luxury while they're being damaged. I mean, the clients I've had, their kids have had cigarettes put out on them by their parents. So people are damaged. I mean, I'd much rather be damaged in the lap of luxury than in a hole in the wall somewhere with no heat, no lights, no nothing. If I
Well,
have to be damaged.
what do you want? What should our takeaway be before we go? And I just thank you, Attorney Linda Bernard, for being with us today. I just love you, Linda.
And I just try to be a realist. That's all. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, um, Diddy Diddy has a son that's not even his son. One of them that's what's it, Albie Shore's son. He elected to be his guardian, and he never wanted to have anything to do with Albie Shore.
But
When
but you know, I
when
but
this
there's
case
something.
broke,
There's
Albie Shore. LB Sure, I saw it on TV. He sent
yeah.
him a memo talking about, man, son, you can come home. He said, I'm not
No, no,
coming back
no,
for
no, no,
you.
no, no, no. But I don't. There's something that happened that was off there because I saw a picture of 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 Puff Daddy when he was a teenager. I think that he and Al went to school together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, and remember, Kim Porter was Albie Shore's wife.
Oh,
That was
before
not
she went to Diddy.
absolutely.
Oh,
She
I
she
didn't know
was
that.
working for Bad Boy. No, that was not. She didn't just have they have excluded that. She didn't just have a baby by Albie Shore. He had that was his wife. So we don't know what that backstory is.
Oh, well, all I can
And
tell you is the kid didn't want to go to him.
yeah, but we don't know we don't. There's something about that that's
And
real
he sat
off.
in that courtroom every day with his daddy,
Yeah,
who he
but yeah,
considers to be Puff
but
Daddy.
I know Al, and
For
he's not. He's
me
not.
too.
He's not the kind of guy to abandon his child. He's not that guy. So
I
I
don't know that I agree with you about
no
that, but
no
anyway.
no
But
no
back to the point. The
no
bottom
no no
line
no
is
no
the
no no
kid didn't want to
no
be
no.
with
Let
him.
me say that is the point because there a lot of people have said a lot of things, but there's something that's off there. Something is off. I don't know what it is,
What's off is that
but
one person is supporting you and one person is not. And when the police first came to the mansion, Al B. Sure's son was there with the other son,
hmm
and they had to stand back and let the
oh
federal
yeah,
agents come in and all that kind of stuff. And that's when Al B. Sure went on TV and online. Son, you can
well,
come home whenever you want to,
well
and,
because he
and he
had
just gave him the stiff arm. I
no,
mean,
but it has been reported that Kim Porter said, "Al, I want
isn't
you."
she dead?
Yes, but she said to him, "I want you to be safe, so leave this alone." You don't know what this is about. You don't know if Puff had beef with Al, and the way he could pay him back would be by taking his child. We don't know.
The kid
There-
is free. The
No, no,
kid's
no,
a grown
no,
man.
no, 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 no,
He
no.
sat in a
No,
courtroom for
you
two
can
months because he
no,
wanted to.
no. I'm just saying there's a lot to unpack here, and there's too much information I know that I don't have to adequately comment on it.
All I'm talking about is what I know about. I don't know the facts either, but I know that the kid
Well,
made a
but
choice.
well, no, which means yeah, we made a choice, but
As his, like you could make a choice.
yeah,
Anybody
yeah,
can make a
no,
choice.
but I'm saying, but why we don't know. So I have to.
I don't
I'm,
know either.
I'm saying so. I'm not gonna say that, but I will say, I love you, Linda. I hope
I love
you
you more.
Oh, impossible.
No,
Impossible.
it's not.
And we love you. And Carol Soskin loves you.
I'm
She
a
said, I love
Scorpio.
Linda. She
No,
said,
no, no, no. When I'm a Scorpio, when a Scorpio loves, it's hard love. Trust me, it's
well,
for
you know,
life.
we love you, Linda. And just no, I said fireworks. I can't do this without Linda. And I love you, girl. And I love everybody here. Hey, Lorraine, saw your hubby Mark up a little bit earlier. And sending you all so much love. Perry Stein, thank you for checking in. I hope that you'll be join the family here. You are more than welcome. I consider you part of the family because you already came in. So there you go. Everybody, I love you. Robert D. Ray, Bernadette, correctional officer for the lockdown. Renee Criswell, Perry Stein, Robert, Andre. Ooh, I'm sending so much love to everybody. So much love to all of you. I love you. Maria Gonzalez, how are you, my sister? I love you. I love you. I love you. D. Ray, love you, girl. Andre, love you. Lorraine, sweet Lorraine. And love you. Love you, love
Love
you, love you.
you.
I love you. Happy 4th, everybody. Let's
Yep.
enjoy this summer.
Lots of
Amen.
fireworks over your wonderful lake in Chicago.
Hey,
The
hey,
most
hey.
spectacular fireworks of all.
But you know, Minneapolis, St. Paul ain't sleeping on nobody. Love you, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.
All
I love
righty.
you, Jackson. I love you.